Hi, Lewis. Now, although I can understand how upset you might be with Lewis Carroll and Sally Mann, I mean, you're more upset with Lewis Carroll. I just want to give you another perspective so that you can gain a broader understanding of what's going on here. Now, in Lewis Carroll's time, as you know, um, as you know, at that time, childhood nudity was not considered a bad thing. The paradox is that even though the Victorians were much more uptight about sex and sexual matters, childhood nudity was not an issue to them. And also, friendships between a middle-aged man and an 11-year-old girl was not viewed upon as something abnormal. And especially since Lewis Carroll was friends with Alice Liddell's family. So he was a trusted friend of the family. But at any rate, one other point I want to make. Lewis Carroll subscribed to the genre of photography called pictorialism, and pictorialism sought to imitate the painting of the day. So here we see a picture of a sleeping, I believe it's Alice, I have to check again, but his model is sleeping, and even though she's got her clothes on, he's done other pictures where the child is naked. This is in imitation of a similar painting by um, Léon Jean Basile Perrault, Perrault, Léon Perrault, who was a 19th century French painter. And he painted, this is his painting of a sleeping poutou. A poutou is similar to a cherub. Poutou is a male, a chubby boy. A cherub is a lower level angel. And Renaissance painting was filled with cherubs, and a poutou is a variation on that theme. So he's depicting this little girl as being angelic and innocent, because that was an aesthetic that was popular in that day. So pictorialists sought to imitate painting, because they wanted to make photography an art, and this was their way of doing it. Here we have Lewis Carroll's painting of Alice Liddell as the Beggar Maid. The Beggar Maid was a poem written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And it went something like this. Well, the story basically was about King Cophetua, an African king, who, according to legend, he wasn't that interested in women, but he finally falls in love. And the object of his affections was a beautiful beggar girl. He happened to look out the window of his palace, and he saw this girl who was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. And he basically went out in the street, started scattering gold, and as the beggars gathered, this woman came up to him, and he asked her to be his queen. The picture on the right was painted by Edward Burne-Jones. It was painted after this photograph was made, but the painting was in honor of Lord Tennyson's poem. The poem went something like this. Well, I'm going to read this to you. Her arms across her breast she laid. She was more fair than words can say. Barefooted came the beggar maid before the king Cophetua, as she is doing here. In robe and crown, the king stepped down, lower than her, to meet and greet her on her way. It is no wonder, said the lords, she is more beautiful than the day. As shines the moon in clouded skies, she in her poor attire was seen. One praised her ankles, one her eyes, one her dark hair, and loved some mien. So sweet a face, such angel grace, in all that land had never been. Cophetua swore a royal oath, this beggar maid shall be my queen. So here the king sits lower than her, and her milky white skin is a contrast against the dark background. And Lewis Carroll depicted Alice Liddell in a similar fashion, a vertical picture, her fair skin against the dark background of a neglected garden wall. So, the images are very poetic, And Lewis Carroll truly tried to create art. Now, again, I mean, I think you're judging him by your own morality, which I understand and which is fine. I just want you to gain an understanding of the actual era of the time in which Lewis Carroll worked. And that was the reason that part of the question asked you to make connections to the time period. Okay, that's pretty much it, Lewis. Good job, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.